history started far before October 7. Zionism was an exterminationist,
it wasn't.
ethno-religious supremacist ideology that is identical to Nazi fascism far before October 7.
No, that is an anti-Semitic talking point, by the way. If you ever say that, that's just pure anti-Semitism. That's not true. Zionism started with people like at least in the form that eventually would go on to create the nation of Israel, was started by people like Theodor Herzl, who was talking about, hey, so I noticed that all these countries are still anti-Semitic. All of these countries hate us. Like, maybe we should just go to our own place and do our own thing. And I think even these other guys would support us, because then you don't have to worry about Jews all the time. We'll even give you all of our when we leave. That was kind of the start of the Zionism that led to the creation of Israel. The idea that it started as some ethno-supremacist movement when it was born out of all of the anti-Semitism across the entire world is an insanely ridiculous talking point.
As the Euromed Human Rights Monitor and the Save the Kids Foundation both correctly pointed to, in 2023, before October 7, 2023 was the deadliest year for children in Palestine. And before then, 2022 was the deadliest year for children in Palestine. Why was that happening to the Palestinian children? If history started on October 7, how could that have deadliest year? 2023, before October 7, 2023 was the deadliest year for children in Palestine. And before then, 2022 was the deadliest year for children in Palestine. Why was that happening to the Palestinian children?
What was happening?
If history started on October 7, how could that have happened? How could that have happened?
The answer is it was just Israel arbitrarily and randomly.
And the reality of the matter is,
children,
Ethan knows better. He should know better. He lived in Israel. He hated Israel. He talked about how Israel was an exterminationist, crazy country that was incredibly right-wing. In 2021, he posted an Instagram story about it, which I'm sure he'll bring up in a little bit to show his bona fides as to why he's so pro-Palestinian.
Overnight. After the shock of October 7th, I noticed a huge increase of anti-Semitic comments from Hasan's stream and Discord, including from his head mod. I was disturbed that Hasan...
Yeah, let's see what these anti-Semitic comments are, okay? Now, remember. There's a lot of story making happening here, okay? There's a lot of story making happening here to make it seem as though, you know, I just showed a very different reality, or I duped this 40-year-old man into I don't know, dangerous radical ideas.
Loser.
And I actually radicalized his audience, not realizing that his audience actually radicalized on their own. They were radicalized by the reality. Many people in his audience, including many people in my audience, were completely oblivious to the horrifying practice of apartheid and genocide that Israel was doing before October 7. October 7 was an act that made a lot of people in the United States of America pay attention to it, okay? And they organically started realizing that the statements coming from Ethan Klein were actually at odds with how they felt about the situation. Now, is it because they were becoming anti-Semitic? No, it's because they started recognizing the reality of Israel's occupation and genocidal practices. Wow. So when Israel was doing genocide, which Ethan, again, goes back and forth on, sometimes he thinks it's a genocide, other times he thinks it's a war.
Is he going to show... I mean, like, it can be both, right? Like, what do you mean? There could be a war and a genocide happening concurrently, right? I don't know. Does he have any clips of Ethan saying it's not a genocide?
His wife certainly doesn't seem to think so. Hila, who was a soldier in the Israeli occupying force, which, again, as I talked about in our debate, where Ethan admitted that she could be considered a terrorist, by the way, her statements on this are even more right-wing than Ethan's, okay? There's always a steady push and pull here. And of course, his audience, organically, a progressive audience that he had cultivated, not because of leftovers, but even like the girly pops that wanted to care about the goofs and gaffs, obviously started recognizing that some of the stuff that Ethan was saying was damn near identical to what Ben Shapiro was saying, or what Charlie Kirk was saying, or what any number of right-wing commentators were saying about Israel.
Like, there's going to be, like, you can make that argument if you really want, but you have to show more, right? Like, anybody's going to make a decent point on something eventually. Like, there's going to be things that Hasan says that occasionally I'll agree with, but that doesn't mean that you're now that person. But
one of the moments that was majorly consequential is the moment that Ethan actually decided to no longer when Ethan decided to no longer be on Twitter. Part of the reason why he left Twitter, now he says, is because of all of the anti-Semitism, and there was plenty of anti-Semitism on Twitter after Elon's takeover, so there is a plausible deniability there. But the reason why he left Twitter was because he couldn't deal with the fact that he kept wanting to say something, okay? He kept wanting to say something about Israel, and it was always in defense of Israel, okay? That famous moment is, and I'm sure someone can fucking bring it up for me right now, that famous moment is when he looked at Mark Barg and his post, a Muslim sex worker, an Iranian Muslim sex worker, who he said, this is it. This was the moment. Enjoy your drugs, and being a sex worker, Hamas would kill you on the spot. This is what he tweeted about Muhammad. I'm in South Beach having fun on drugs.
Wait, didn't this guy tweet something unhinged about Ethan first? Is Hasan going to bring that up, or do we just totally ignore that thing? Does that come up in the context, Nuke, or he did? Okay.
This is literally no different than what Israel defenders say. The idea that you can't show solidarity to a people that are being ethnically cleansed is ridiculous. The idea that you cannot show solidarity to the Palestinians because you have fantasized that those Palestinians would be homophobic and fucking kill you and viciously kill you is ridiculous. Even if that was the case, you could still show solidarity to people, even if they were homophobic, even if they were anti-sex work. Yeah, I know. A lot of people in underdeveloped nations that have been victim of colonial exploitation do not have the same woke mindset that we do here in the Western world.
Just because they're getting bombed.
That doesn't change this dynamic at all. I still don't think they should be fucking destroyed. I still don't think that their lives should be ruined, as a matter of fact. No one deserves genocide, period. It doesn't matter if their opinions are not aligned with mine. This is simply trying to engage in the act of pinkwashing. It's also a conflation between ISIS and Hamas. Hamas is a militant organization that was designed under the rulership of the oppressive Israeli apartheid regime. Hamas's tactics have evolved throughout time and become more radical. Hamas's tactics have become more violent throughout time, but that violence is still maintained. The standard of violence is still maintained.
Just to be clear, Hamas was violent from the start, right? That's, or at least from the time through the Second Intifada, but okay.
By the colonial power in this process, which would be Israel, because Israel has gotten more and more violent throughout time. That's why the cliche here is that the first Intifada was fought with stones and work stoppages, and the second Intifada was still relatively peaceful, but there were bus bombings on top of that. Okay, bombings at bus stations. What could have taken place in between that process? Well, if you watched any number of the cliche here is that the first Intifada was fought with stones and work stoppages, and the second Intifada was still relatively peaceful, but there were
fuck. I don't know. This is so boring. I don't like it. The second Intifada was not relatively peaceful. There were terrorist attacks fucking everywhere. They weren't just trying to bomb bus stations. They were trying to kill people on buses. You can go and look at the amount of people killed or the amount of attacks that happened during the second Intifada. I don't know where he gets this idea. Explicitly,
there were bus bombings on top of that. Okay, bombings at bus stations. What could have taken place in between that process? Well, if you watched any number of
that it was not considered peaceful at all. It was a super violent Intifada. It was one of the things that radicalized so many Israelis. The idea that this is just a fucking meme or that it was still sticks and stones or whatever. Let's see. In the 4 years, there were approximately 700 Israeli civilians killed. There were approximately 3,500-ish, 3,500 Palestinians killed, 1,000 by Palestinians themselves, by the way, for being suspected collaborators. This was not considered at all anywhere near like the first Intifada, which with bus bombings. What an unhinged take. There were under 200 killed by Palestinians in the first Intifada, and then about 2,000 killed in the first Intifada of Palestinians killed. This is such an unhinged statement.
Different instances where I've talked about this issue, especially when talking with Zach Foster, a Jewish historian, an academic that has dedicated his entire life's work to Palestine and Palestinian liberation groups, you would know why the Palestinian militancy has become more violent throughout this process, because Israel has become infinitely more violent in its colonial talk and work stoppages. And the second Intifada was still relatively peaceful, but there were bus bombings on top of that. Okay, bombings at bus stations. What could have taken place in between that process? Well, if you watched any number of different instances where I've talked about this issue, especially when talking with Zach Foster, a Jewish historian, an academic that has dedicated his entire life's work to Palestine and Palestinian liberation groups, you would know why the Palestinian militancy has become more violent throughout this process, because Israel has become infinitely more violent in its colonial occupation.
No, now he's gonna. I mean, he can hide and say infinitely more violent than their colonial occupation. That could be the thing. The reason why the second Intifada happened, and the reason why people got ultra radicalized, a retarded answer is what Hasan is saying now, that Israel became more violent. There's a second retard answer that everybody will give, that even Israelis will give, or Palestinians will give, is that Sharon went onto the Temple Mount, and that's bullshit. The reason why the second Intifada happened was because people were disillusioned after Oslo 1 and 2 amounted to nothing. That the Oslo peace process failed. That it seemed like Israeli expansion into the West Bank was still continuing, despite the fact that they were supposedly on some track to finalizing some peaceful agreement between the two, and people felt like nothing was getting done, and then eventually all of that culminates with Sharon and the Temple Mount, and then eventually, the second Intifada erupts. But no, it wasn't because of an increasingly destructive, an increasingly violent Israeli occupation. It was because people felt like the peace process was just never materializing. The failure of Camp David, the failure of I don't even remember the name of that, the summit or whatever. The fact that it didn't produce any actual lasting peaceful solution is what made it, essentially people lose their minds. It's like, fuck it, let's just go. And then also Arafat himself never disavowed violence and would never disavow violence, because in a way he liked it. He really did the entire time, but.
Okay.
Maybe that was just a little bit of trolling though, true, maybe.
Why did he even attack this guy? I think he probably said something like death to America or something. I don't fucking know. He's
Oh, like you can't even wait. You can't even present why he attacked the guy. Like, why can't you just say that at least? Hello?
Wilding out on the timeline. Okay. There's more to this, though.
Why can't the Israelis argue that their politics went far right as a result of Hamas by Hassanian logic? Oh, they never do that. They'll never grant that. They always explain one side and then they just condemn the other. But yeah, I mean, that's the reason why. There's good reasons why Hamas exists. There's good reasons why Palestinians want to enact violence against Israelis like that. I mean, you can understand it for sure. But there's also reasons why Israelis, are violent in their occupation. Like they both just like infinitely trigger. They're like two fucking siblings that infinitely trigger the fuck out of each other eternally. They truly act like it. And they truly are. And they truly deserve one another. Okay.
Death to America or something. I don't fucking know. He was wilding out on the timeline.
Wiling out.
There's more to this.
See, like, he was wiling out on the timeline. That's how Hasan explains it. He was just wiling out, which is fine. Okay, if you want to explain it, that was fine. But Ethan is saying the same thing that Ben Shapiro said. Ethan can't just be wiling out on the timeline, I guess. Okay. Oh, apparently this is the same guy on Twitter too now. Now, this is after the fact. So, like, this wouldn't be justifying it, but what would happen if, hypothetically, Ethan Klein shot himself in the head, hypothetically? Question mark. Epic, dude. Epic.
So he had a back and forth. Does anyone have that? You guys have the back and forth that took place? Because
how do you not have it when you've prepared so carefully for your entire little cringe nuke here? You don't have the back and forth at all? Hello?
Expands on his ideology here.
Okay, dude. Okay, dude.
Yeah, I stopped using Twitter to protest Elon. No, you stopped using Twitter because you couldn't handle the backlash of your racist-ass comments. There was a queer Muslim content creator. Do you think we forgot? You are a ghoul, fucking freak. I'm the freak and ghoul, yet here you are still refusing to criticize Hamas. I haven't killed any children or families or burned anyone alive lately. Who's the freak and the ghoul? Why do you have harsher words for me than Hamas? Was it hard to type that bullshit with one hand, jerking off to the thought of queer Muslims being murdered? Bro, what the fuck? I'm fully in your corner. What was wrong? What was I wrong about? This is the revolution you're supporting, right? Just don't go anywhere near Hamas because your life would 100% be in danger. Am I wrong genuinely? The idea that, once again, every single person...
It's kind of funny, actually. This is like a microcosm of the entire Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Hasan has chosen the one moment in time where Ethan hit on this guy, by saying something aggressive on Twitter, and Hasan wants to start the record right here, okay? For no reason whatsoever, Ethan decides to make this unhinged personal attack against this guy. Well, I don't know personal or not, but for this one moment in time right here, like this is where we're starting the record. Like, why not find out why he made this attack against him, But...
involved in whether it's affairs of civil governance or involved in militancy against the state of Israel is a fucking barbaric rapist monster that will burn your ass on the spot is ridiculous. Whether it's affairs, your life would 100% be in danger. Am I wrong genuinely? The idea that, once again, every single person involved in whether it's affairs of civil governance or involved in militancy against the state of Israel is a fucking barbaric rapist.
I also just love the IDF. You mean the IOF? Genocidal occupation force. Genocide. But Hamas, that's a resistance fighter movement that's... engaged in the militant resistance against the Israeli occupation. Like, okay, dude. Here is what triggered Ethan's response. The guy tweeted a response to Ethan that triggered this. Let's see. Ethan tweeted something here, but it was deleted. And then this guy replied, how many children has Israel killed? Oh, this is on October 11th, based. How many children has Israel killed in just this bombardment on Gaza, let alone in the past few decades? Did you go around scolding Israelis like this ever? Or is it more important for you to manufacture consent for Israel because you saw 10 edgelords on Twitter? Based. Okay. Nice.
Monster that will burn your ass on the spot is ridiculous. And he hasn't changed from this perspective because he literally said... about me going to Gaza potentially, right? When I was working alongside Jeremy Scahill to try to apply pressure to the Egyptian government during the brief period of ceasefire to open up the Rafah crossing so Western media could actually go into the Gaza Strip, which Israel obviously never allowed, and then Israel destroyed the entire ceasefire anyway. To open up the Rafah crossing so Western media could actually go into the Gaza Strip, which Israel obviously never allowed, and then Israel destroyed the entire ceasefire anyway.
Wait, why didn't Egypt let you go? Why didn't Egypt open it up? What was happening there?
Way. In that process, he kept saying if he goes to Gaza, he'll be a high-profile target for Hamas. Why the fuck would they do that? If Hamas was in the business of kidnapping any random non-Palestinian that happens to be inside of Gaza, they would kidnap a shit ton of the aid workers. Except those aid workers were, once again, just like I was concerned about my own safety and well-being, those aid workers were killed by Israel, not Hamas, like the World Central Kitchen aid workers.
Like, they literally did do this in Al-Shifa Hospital. Like, Hamas literally would kill people there that were from outside. Like, even Amnesty International documents, it's like everybody knew this, but okay.
that were killed by Israel. They were there under the watchful gaze of Jose Andres. They were working alongside the Israeli government. The Israeli government brought World Central Kitchen to the Gaza Strip to show the world, to disprove the narrative by their estimation that they were not letting humanitarian aid flow into the Gaza Strip. So they worked with Jose Andres, a very famous chef, a very famous activist chef, and his group, World Central Kitchen. And what did they do? What did they do in that process? Because they had created killing fields, their fucking Israeli occupying force commanders lasered the World Central Kitchen aid workers. So yes, the major fear here is not Hamas in terms of going into the Gaza Strip. It's Israel. And the reason why I bring this up is because Ethan still doesn't recognize that. He still, to this day, does not recognize that. He still thinks it's like Hamas is the barbaric, violent force.
Unbelievable.
And not Israel. Israel is a far greater evil in the region than Hamas ever could be. This is the truth. That's it. There is plenty of evidence to showcase this truth. This is just the reality. It's an observable reality that you cannot deny, okay? That's it. If you are a lesser evil voter and you wanted to vote for Kamala Harris, for example, because of the lesser evil voting that you wanted to engage in, then you should be a lesser evil voter and vote for Hamas as opposed to Israel in this process. Because Israel has done on October 7 to the entire Palestinian population over and over again for the past 16 months. Israel has so much more power than Hamas has ever had. Wow. And it has used that power for true evil, for death and destruction.
Wow.
It's ridiculous. There is no moral playing field here, but even if the moral playing field was even, just looking at the sheer casualty numbers and the percentage of who Israel has targeted and who Israel has killed versus who Hamas targeted and who Hamas killed, the numbers on the board reflect a very different reality that does not make Israel look good.
The numbers.
Is what Ethan is saying is true? No, it's not. He's doing the fucking ISIS conflation, saying that like Hamas would throw you off the roofs or whatever. And by the way, before people turn around and say, oh my God, well, Hasan, what do you say to this? Hamas has executed this gay person or whatever. First and foremost, let me explain to you how
it's because they're getting bombed so much. They can't help it.
That process works, as I explained to Ethan as well in our leftovers conversation. As a matter of fact, the last one that we had in the studio, Israel will blackmail and extort gay, queer Palestinians with compromising footage in order to turn them into collaborators. And in that process, and this has been the same practice for every fucking resistance group.
Is this true? I've never heard this. It might be true. I've never heard this before, if this is true. Holy shit. But also, Palestinians like to claim things like that Israel has trained like all of the animals also to be resistance fighters. Like Palestinians were making claims that like dogs and eagles and dolphins and all this other stuff, that these guys were like secret Israeli IDF trained Mossad animal. I'm not joking. Like every animal is trained by the Mossad. I wish I could. I don't have this article on hand, but it's just a little bit unhinged. But
every resistance group throughout history, whether it be the IRA, which implemented the practice of kneecapping, or whether it be the ANC, which implemented the practice of putting tires around the necks of collaborators and lighting them on fire, a practice called.
I also like. Yeah, that's a really good question. YouTube chat. Wait a second, Hasan. Why would gay people doing gay shit be compromising? What do you mean by that?
Necklacing. Okay, Hamas, when they find collaborators that are working alongside Israel, will execute them. This isn't appropriate. I don't think it's appropriate. But that is the reason. It's no different than what the IRA did, shooting someone's kneecaps. That's where the term kneecap comes from, by the way, the band kneecap. And that's precisely what the ANC, supposedly under the watchful, humanitarian, peaceful, pacifist gaze of fucking Nelson Mandela did in terms of necklacing, putting a rubber tire around someone's neck and lighting it on fucking fire for the crime of collaborating with the apartheid government.
Was seemingly okay with this. And do you care that your chat is calling me racist? Do you make any attempt to modify?
I have not looked at my chat.
Moderate that
I have not looked at my chat at all. But I
just opened it. But don't you have moderators? Do you care at all about what your audience says about me?
Yeah, this is, I think, probably the most honest criticism that Ethan has here. Okay, which is that his feelings are hurt. His feelings are hurt because he said.
This is also the thing that I hope people notice. I don't know if they do or not, but like the fact that in the conversation that they had together, that Ethan could admit when he was wrong about something or when he messed up on something. Like it seems like Ethan will readily admit when he makes a mistake. Hasan will not admit to ever being wrong about anything ever. He has to be. It's the cult thing. It's like with Trump. It's the exact same thing. He can't be wrong because everything he's saying, it doesn't come from fact. It comes from ideology. And if he was wrong about anything, it might show a flaw in the ideology. So he has to be correct on everything. So Hasan can never admit a mistake on anything ever. Because yeah, it would show a flaw or an imperfection in the ideology. It's just so cringe.
Saying things to an audience that has a higher political acumen than he does, and that audience is obviously tuned into the frequency of right-wing reactionary propaganda. So of course, they immediately hear some of the words that are taking place in this conversation, which by the way, more informative than this context nuke. If you want to understand Ethan's actual framework and actual perspective on the matter, you should go back and rewatch that debate that we did, okay? This debate. All the way in like the 17th of October, 2023. I believe that's when we had that conversation, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. But yes, of course, when they hear you say things that are in defense of Israel and engage in racist tropes and racist stereotyping and acting as though and acting as though like Hamas is ISIS, for example, then yeah, of course. Of course people are going to say, you're being fucking racist.
Of course.
Hasan, you're literally playing into Ethan's hands with this. Don't speak positively of a literal fascist terrorist group. A fascist terrorist group? What the fuck are you saying? Hamas is also right-wing and reactionary, though. We don't need to support them. What is the support here? Who?
Oh my God.
I'm not saying, oh my God, it's amazing. It's the greatest fucking liberation group that has ever...
And then listen to the hyperbole, right? No, bro, no one is saying you're saying that, but you're making it sound like they're basically chill. You understand that, right? But he's like, I'm not saying they're the greatest thing since sliced cheese or sliced bread. Sorry, fuck. I'm not saying the greatest thing. Like, no, that's not what he's saying. You're saying, but you kind of sound like you're a little bit more supportive of them than you should be, bro.
Existed. But what are you supposed to do? Who is supposed to rise up in arms against a nation state that is a settler colonial entity?
And see, I mean, he does the thing. He's doing that thing where you say that you don't justify a thing, and you kind of attack it, and then you go on to justify the thing. So it is justified. You do support them. Just say that. Own it. God. The thing that I hate the most about Hasan is how much of a weak, effeminate, spineless fucking loser he is when it comes to just owning some of the more radical things that he says. Like, you can make all these jokes about America 9/11, just own it. Just say, fuck it, dude. Hasan's not perfect, or not Hasan. Hamas isn't perfect, but they're kind of based, you know? They do what they have to do. Like, just fucking own it, dude. God, he's such a loser.
This fucking liberation group that has ever existed. But what are you supposed to do? Who is supposed to rise up in arms against a nation state that is a settler colonial entity doing a genocide? Don't you feel like it's a little suspicious that you constantly are railing against people who are fighting against the genocide? What the fuck are people supposed to do? What would you do? This is a reality that former Israeli Shin Bet leaders also recognize. This is a reality that Ehud Barak, the former prime minister of Israel, also recognized when he said, if I was on the other side of that Gaza fence, I would join Hamas. Of course you would.
Man,
what the fuck do you mean?
He loves that
What
quote,
is this
dude.
expectation that people are supposed to be perfect victims after 76 years of colonial occupation?
Perfect victims.
It is crazy. He said this yesterday. You're 100% right. What?
About actually wanting to understand the situation in a way where we humanize everybody, where we can actually create a lasting peace, one that's not built on like hate. So yeah, no, Hila's not a terrorist. Somebody who's like, I want to join the Houthis so that I can, or I want to join Hamas so I can like suicide bomb a cafe. That's it.
Israel's defense minister paid a visit to Palestinians will be suicide bombers who failed their missions in an effort to try and understand what motivates them. Benjamin Ben Elizer's conclusion: they are driven by despair. While condemning the act, Ben Elizer said he felt compassion for one bomber, a young woman who, in a fit of grief over her boyfriend's death, volunteered to go on a suicide mission. The minister, a moderate in Ariel Sharon's hawkish government, said as soon as Palestinians can realize the dream of a normal life, they will say no to anyone who tries to convince to choose death over life. Stanley Cohen, a lawyer who represented Hamas activists, presented a very different vision of recent history. He portrayed a powerful and vicious Israel that has indiscriminately killed many thousands of innocent Palestinians. Hamas is not a terrorist group, but a nationalist resistance force. Nationalist resistance forced to resort to violence because it has so little power compared with Israel.
I love that he's like citing like a lawyer who's representing Hamas activists. No fucking shit, Sherlock. Talking about the most biased possible story you could ever find in your life, but okay.
This is something that I've described over and over again.
Do you believe that in Gaza there is a genocide happening? No, I don't think so. Although apparently Israel's actions have gotten more unhinged as of recently, but that's not surprising given that Trump will basically let them do whatever the fuck they want because Trump is unhinged and retarded.
This is the primary difference between Hamas and ISIS. ISIS is a better analog for Israel than it is for Hamas. The only thing that you can point to with respect to ISIS and Hamas is the fact that they're both Muslim and scary to you. Hamas is a national resistance group. In terms of their own personal opinions, yes, some are right-wing reactionary, certainly, okay? But the goal is emancipation. If there was no occupation, there would be no Hamas. It's that simple. Do you understand?
That's someone who
Is it right or wrong? Engage it on its merits. There's no merit to engage here. Whether or not you're a terrorist group or a resistance group is truly just a matter of perspective. One man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter. But it's just funny that people will make excuses for some tactics with the group that they politically align with, but not for others because they don't politically align with them. Like, you can argue that there are elements of the entire history of Israel, especially when you talk about their obsession with the deterrent effect, that are terrorist in nature. They enact bombings on civilian populations to try to discourage them from supporting terrorist elements. They did that in Lebanon in 2006. They've done it with surrounding countries, all the way up to the 90s. It was pretty explicitly a policy of Israel. Like, they wouldn't even deny it. It was an open policy. But I mean, like, he'll call them terrorists, but when Hamas it's just freedom fighters or resistance fighters. It's just funny because the perspective literally comes down to whether or not you agree with them politically or not based on how you label them, which is it's goofy.
who's like, yeah, and they're like, yeah, I'm a terrorist. I want to be a terrorist. I am a terrorist. You know what I mean? Could you argue that like the IDF commits acts of terror? Yeah. You know what I mean? For sure. But it.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah.
By the way, I actually talked to Ethan about this in this very same conversation.
What?
But he clearly did not listen. In this conversation that I had with Ethan, we discussed the subject of Hamas and anti-Semitism within Hamas, where I said, are there anti-Semites within the ranks of Hamas? Of course there are. There are anti-Semites everywhere. Having said that, the broader goals of Hamas and all Palestinian resistance and all Palestinian militancy is an end to the occupation. So Palestinians can be free, so they can be a sovereign state, so the Palestinians no longer have to worry about drones hanging over their heads and mass surveillance and death and destruction. That's it.
Brave.
32,000 people in here right now.
I'm just trying to tell you guys how it feels. And I'm fucking shocked that you don't care that people in your chat are saying, who the fuck is this child cold, arrogant,
Ethan, I love you, but there's only so much I can do.
How can you be surprised?
Doesn't the destruction of condition of living reach the part of genocide? For a genocide to be a genocide, there has to be the special intention of a group to eliminate another group based on some characteristic of that group, like nationality, religiosity, or ethnic stuff. That has to be the goal. The problem with a lot of the pro-Pallies and what they argue for in terms of genocide is that basically almost any war can be called a genocide, with the way the Palestinians argue that there's an ongoing genocide right now. That's basically how it goes.
Surprised when your Discord is literally full of fucking...
Ethan, I love you, but there's only so much I can do if you're making that argument. You know that, right? Like,
Hasan's chat.
let's see what argument he was making. Does anyone have the clip? Let's see what argument he was making that caused people to respond that way. I want to see. Because my statement there is, listen, as much as I try to moderate my community, of course, if your output is fucking insane, of course chat is going to respond to that by going, what the fuck is this arrogant asshole saying? Let me take a look. I don't know if this was right before or right after he implied that anti-Zionist Jews are capos or not, but I'm going to try to fucking find the clip real quick. And if you guys can help me find the exact moment where he was complaining right there and what led to the chat response, we can maybe manage through. We can maybe look through the reasons as to why his feelings got hurt. You all right? We don't have to continue if you don't want to. And also, that simply cynically or in a weird way, just like being like, no, anti-Semitism is like totally fine actually with this one phrase.
You won't make any fucking concessions, and it's crazy. Like I make so many fucking concessions to you all the time from my heart, and I listen and I fucking...
You're doing the hyperbole thing. I know you're answering a chatter's question, but when you're asked, is there a genocide? The question I wish you'd answer is it right that there's only one thing that we could expect Palestinians to do right now, given their circumstance? No, I don't think there's only one thing you could expect them to do. I've answered this question a billion times. Like, I don't think that you can ever justify things like mass rapes or mass murdering of civilians. It's not an effective way to gain independence or liberation. It's not an effective way to get the other side to negotiate with you. It's not an effective way to literally get anything done ever. Like, I've said this a billion times. I don't know the problem with the Palestinians is the Palestinians have never put on the table an offer that they'd be willing to accept for peace, because it seems like they want everything. That's always been my number one complaint, or my number one argument for the big issues that the Palestinian side has.
Try to move towards your side every time we talk, and I do. But when I fucking try to explain to you...
Oh, you found the actual timestamp?
You care that your chat is calling me racist?
Let's see what it was. Let's see what the actual thing that he said was before. Like, there were plenty of moments where he's... Listen to my words. Does that change the broader movement and the morality behind Black Lives Matter? Or does that change what... Oh, that's right. It was because he was complaining about from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Saying, well, according to Jews, it actually is a scary statement. To which I responded with, hey, Ethan, you understand Black Lives Matter. You ask white people what Black Lives Matter means, right-wing white people will tell you, well, Black Lives Matter is a scary slogan. So if you can understand why I don't give a shit about the perspective of white right-wingers when it comes to Black Lives Matter, you can understand why I don't care about your perspective in this regard. Because if you don't understand that this is an emancipatory slogan and not one that is extermination then yeah, I don't know what to fucking tell you.
Based.
What people mean when they say Black Lives Matter.
But Black Lives Matter doesn't... Again, it's what's in the phrase, dude. Saying the thing is, like, saying Black Lives Matter doesn't insinuate that other lives don't matter. It's in the fucking phrase, bro. I don't know what to tell you.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free also doesn't feature from the river to the sea, we should destroy Israel.
That's literally what from the river to the sea means, is that Israel as an ethno state that is protective of the Jewish people, that Israel, that type of state should not exist. That's what from the river to the sea means, definitionally, right? That Israel should be a single state, that it probably wouldn't even be called Israel anymore, that incorporates all the Palestinian refugees and everything. That's what that means, so.
And kill all the Jews. You're the one who's saying that is the secondary implication behind it.
I'm just telling you how people see it, bro.
I know, but if you were to tell me this is how white people feel...
Like, Ethan is hedging too much even here. Ethan shouldn't be saying that, but maybe he just didn't know as much up to this point. That's not just how people... That's like... And Palestinians will tell you that. Palestinians will say this. Again, like, people on the far left over here, or whatever the fuck you would call Hasan's political views, like, they make arguments that even people on the other side wouldn't make. They wouldn't make an argument this cucked. They would say, yeah, of course we don't want Israel to exist as a Jewish state.
feel about Black Lives Matter, I would say I don't care how white people feel in this regard, because
Yeah, but
my business is
Black
not
Lives
about
Matter,
explaining what this.
There's
my,
no
what I'm-
inherent, bro. There's nothing in Black Lives Matter that's saying that white lives don't matter in the
There's
fucking
nothing
slogan.
from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free that implies Jewish people must be eradicated or Israel must be destroyed
No.
and Jewish people in it must
People-
be killed.
A lot of people disagree because you're talking about from the river to the
Yes,
sea.
a lot of people who are not
mainland Israel.
Palestinian and a lot of
All
people
right,
who are not
whatever, bro.
anti-Zionist disagree.
So cringe.
Anti-Zionists, on the other hand, don't agree, and they are the ones who are using the slogan. So why would I'm asking you, if I'm not going to ask a white person who is against Black Lives Matter, why would what they feel about this slogan? Why would I go to in the broadest
Well, I already
majority,
explained it to
Zionists,
you.
both Jewish and Christian? Why would I ask them what they think about a Zionist, anti-Zionist slogan?
I already explained it, but you don't want to hear me.
Do all the people who use that phrase mean that? You're hyperboling again. Even if some people say that on the pro-Pally side, you can still be more generous in your interpretation. No, I wouldn't be. What are you talking about? No, because the only people that might use it in a different way are cringe losers in the West that don't understand the situation. When Palestinians say that, what they're talking about is there should be one state from the river to the sea that is that's a single state that's majority Muslim Arab. That's what they mean when they say that. Full stop. If you say anything different, you're hallucinating. You just don't understand the situation. So no, I'm not going to be charitable to some dipshit retard in the West who might use a phrase about a group of people that he doesn't know their history, he doesn't know where they live, he doesn't know what they're advocating for, he doesn't know anything about the situation. No, why the fuck would I apply any lens of charity? That's retarded.
This is why people were saying, hey, Ethan, you're fucking racist. Hey, Ethan, you're a Zionist. Do you feel like it is inappropriate for people to assume that he is a Zionist in this very moment? Is it because of the Jew hatred that is in the heart of every single one of my chatters that caused them to think that his resistance and his lack of interest in understanding the argument that I'm making came across like he was still very much defensively posturing at the behest of Israel? This is, of course, when are you going to stop talking about Ethan? I'm going to have sex with your mother over and over again. Why don't you shut the fuck up and donate, bitch? We're at $85,000.
Wow.
Slated to raise all the way to $150,000 in the process of watching this context nuke for charity.
For
What
charity.
do you hate charity?
For charity, guys.
Is
Do
that
you
what
hate
it is?
charity,
Is that what's
guys?
going on? Or are you a fucking Ethan Dick Rider who probably begged me to watch this thing for months on end and only to turn around now when I'm finally watching it and go, oh, I don't want to see it? Ethan begged me to do this, so I'm finally doing it. Everyone needs to calm down. Please stop watching the video I begged you to watch. What? No, I'm asking you. Like,
It's not in the fucking
why would
slogan
you-
itself says people interpret it as destruction of Israel. I know it doesn't say let's destroy Israel,
But it's not.
that's from the river to the sea is mainland Israel.
Okay, Ethan.
That's it, man. That's how
Ethan,
people see it.
No,
I'm not,
you can't simply say that's how people see it. And
It is,
stop
though.
there. Remember, this slogan has been used to censure Rashida Tlaib.
What does that have to do
This
with
emancipatory
anything?
slogan has gotten people to be fired like Mark Lamont Hill. There's a reason why I won't back away from defending this slogan and saying this slogan. It was so disingenuous of Ethan to use Norm Finkelstein. It was so disingenuous of him to use Norm Finkelstein and his assessment of the slogan when Norm Finkelstein would never in a million fucking years sit there and be like, well, my feelings are more important here than Palestinian emancipation.
Damn.
He says that's how people see it, but in reality, that's how he sees it. Exactly. Do you feel, chatters who are watching this right now, 16 months into this genocide, if you felt like Ethan was unjustly maligned, do you feel like your opinion has changed now in terms of why people saw this argument? Which is an argument that he still tried to present to me 16 months into a genocide when we had a conversation
Genocide.
this past Friday.
A
Do you
fucking
feel like
genocide,
this is
guys.
reasonable for people to
You know
assume
it was a genocide,
he is
right?
Zionist?
I'm sorry. I'm so tired of dealing with this, and it's just white people in the West. I don't know what to say. Like, it's just such a boring argument. Like, nobody that lives in the region like buys into this. This is just like the cringy shit that you guys larp about. But why is it a call for a single? Yeah, and I am reading it in the Strawman voice. Why is it a call for a single nation state inherently genocidal? Even if it's rejected due to implications of logistics, states break down and combine all the time. Or am I missing something? Jewish people have been kicked out of every Arab majority state that they live in, okay? Openly. They weren't welcome there. They were kicked out. Plenty of Arabs joined together in saying that they would destroy and eliminate all of Israel, okay? It happened with all the wars that they fought, 50, 60 years ago. And now you've had a group of people who have elected, or in 2005 at least, they elected basically Hamas that also committed themselves to the violent oppression of or destruction of the state of Israel. Their goal was to destroy Israel. So yeah, Jewish people wouldn't feel comfortable living as a minority in a state that is run by Arabs. There's, some 50 Arab states around the planet, and the fact that Jews would be asked to give up the one state that they have to become an Arab majority state, I think reasonably so. They probably wouldn't feel comfortable living there. Arabs are genociding other Arabs in the whole region around them, right? It's happened in Yemen. It's happened in It's happened in Syria. There are these massive wars against, I guess it's not Arab versus Arab, but like for Iran, Iraq. You've got conflict between Saudi Arabia and Yemen. The idea that Jews would feel comfortable as a minority in any of these states is ridiculous. I think it's fair for them to say like, oh no, I don't really think I'd actually feel too comfortable being here. And all of you dipshit white people in the West will say like, oh well, you can't now that it'd be a genocide. If it were to become one, none of you would step up to do anything because none of you guys give a fuck about Jewish people at all anyway. So the idea that the UN or somebody would step in when they already failed to step in for prior conflict with Jewish people is a fucking joke.
Norm has said that. No, Norm said that he doesn't approve of it because it comes across as something that Jews fear, not even Jews, Zionists fear.
Why do you call those other conflicts genocides? They're probably not. If I was saying genocide, it's not really true. I'm using their definitions. It's not. For Yemen, would we consider that a genocide? Probably not. For Syria, probably not. There's just like a fuck ton of people dying. Really.
But he totally gets it and totally understands it. I only started watching you again because of his claims, and it got me to resub. I tried to use a perfectly coherent narrative that Ethan should understand here, okay? Which is something that he gets. He gets that Black Lives Matter, gets a lot of flack. He is in support of Black Lives Matter. Who cares? Who cares what racist white people think about Black Lives Matter? Just like, who cares about what people who want to defend Israel feel about from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free? Bro, you fucking fell off after the content nuke went from 30K to 53K. Suck my ass. I know, I'm falling. I'm consistently falling off over and over again. He was just critiquing the... Yeah, Norm was critiquing the use of the phrase, not its inherent meaning, but it doesn't matter. Norm also doesn't give a shit about that phrase.
Damn.
Anyway, now that you know the context of where he drew this, got this clip from, where is he wrong? What is Ethan's complaint on this one, I wonder? Ethan is a left-wing grifter Zionist. Fuck his content.
Zionist, baby killing.
Bro, nothing is wrong with this. Yeah, this is W. Am I wrong? He's not wrong. Unrelated buying a hang glider. Like, this is edgy shit, okay? That right there is 100% people fucking... people being edgy as fuck. That is fair. He didn't even bring that up, by the way. He's just talking about...
Maybe it is unreasonable that I'm asking
because you're racist. Is this guy not spitting facts? What the fuck?
Him to moderate his chat for a friend. He doesn't even know where I'm coming from because it's...
They are settlers, you stupid fuck.
Not something
they really should stop aid to Israel. He's going full goblin over Zionism. Nothing controversial has been said so far. Like, the only thing he fucking...
Do you think Hasan is generally this stupid, or does he know what he's doing? No, again, remember, this is all in service to an ideology. This is all about ideological stuff. That's why he's saying this.
Cares about. The only thing he cares about is his own personal feelings. There is no moment where he tries to understand my position here. There's no moment where he tries to understand why people have this attitude over him. And this is a Discord chat that he can't see, by the way. He pulled after the fact to be like, wow, this is really fucked up. And if that's the most fucked up shit you saw in a fucking open to everyone Discord, holy moly, dude, you are out of your fucking mind. Yes, nobody cares about your feelings, Ethan. I'm sorry. I don't give a fuck about your feelings. Can you imagine if I spent the past 16 months constantly talking about my own personal feelings? Like I'm talking about, babies that are in plastic bags being carried over to medical facilities by their crying fathers after being lasered out of the sky with Israeli munitions that we fucking shipped over to them. And I just sit there and I say, you know what? My feelings are so important here. And we really need to take time and cover what I feel right now in this moment.
Thank God Hasan would never stop to talk about his feelings about a thing.
What the fuck, man? What the fuck? Of course your feelings don't fucking matter in this process. What do you mean? Especially when I am, at this moment, back then, as his fucking friend
covering
and
genocide.
Podcast co-host, trying to explain to him
the genocide. Say it.
Why people are being critical of him. And he totally did not understand this at all. I was saying, Ethan, there's only so much I can do in terms of moderating this community. But if you keep your output to this like ridiculous Zionist propaganda nonsense, yes, it seems like it's a good position in your mind. And maybe your chat will actually hype you up and say, no, King, you're so valid. You're so valid for actually constantly reframing the conversation around your feelings. But yes, outside of your own community, outside of your own echo chamber, people are going to hear what you're saying and go, yeah, you're defending Israel. What the fuck is wrong with you?
Your own echo chamber.
Yes, you're a racist Zionist is what people are going to think. There's nothing I can do to change their mentality.
Base.
Fucking shocked that you don't care that people in your chat are saying, who the fuck is this child, cold, arrogant,
Ethan, I love you, but there's only so much I can do.
How can you be surprised when your Discord is literally full of fucking...
Ethan, I love you, but there's only so much I can do if you're making that argument. You know that, right? Like
Hasan's chat had been calling me a Zionist.
All right. Oh, and then he brings it back to
ask for.
And all these other content creators actually, whipping their communities when their chat is going fucking absolutely bananas over random dumb shit and bringing my name up for no fucking reason. That you... Like, what's so crazy about this is he's literally pointing to XQC, which he knew at this point was constantly inviting hate.
Given Israel's conduct in warfare up to this point, would it be more apt to say that it's tantamount to such loaded terminology like genocide or ethnic cleansing? No, because genocide has a special intention behind it. If you call it a genocide, then what you're saying is Israel wants to kill the entire or eliminate the entire ethnic group of Palestinians, meaning the only option is to destroy Israel. That's it. So if Israel is truly committed to a genocidal ideology, you can't negotiate with them. That's the reason why it's such a cancerous way to label the conflict. And that's not true. There are outs where Israel would negotiate some particular thing at this point in time. Probably not under this government, not under the lack of any kind of U.S. push to negotiate anything. But like, Israel is not committed to the genocide of the Palestinian people. It doesn't make sense. There's 2 million Palestinians that live in Israel proper. It doesn't make sense. So that framing removes your ability to have a conversation about how you can ever actually resolve the conflict. That's the issue with that framing. It's bad. It's toxic.
Towards my position, pulling the fuck Hasan ripcord as Ethan is doing now.
Oh, no.
To basically light up every reactionary online who fucking despise me to the goddamn core. Okay? I never did this to Ethan. I did the exact opposite to Ethan, as a matter of fact. I constantly fucking told my community to shut the fuck up about Ethan for an entire year. And the only reason why people still arrived at that conclusion is because of what he was fucking saying. The reason why XQC's community hates me, on the other hand, is not because of my positions, but because he kept calling me a fucking...
Then say something else when you say it isn't a genocide, rather than say no, call it something else, give it a different label rather than not engaging on the point. There's no point to engage on. You don't want to engage on the point. The point is that it's a war, and wars suck. There is no such thing as a good war. All wars fucking suck. All the big wars in the past have fucking sucked. World War I, World War II, Iraq 1 and 2, Vietnam, South Korea, all of these wars suck shit. But the problem is that you're looking at this particular war and you're going, wow, a lot of civilians are dying. It must be a genocide. Why don't you engage on that point? What the fuck point do you want me to engage on? That war sucks and that civilians die? That's true. Wars do suck and civilians do die. But you don't want to engage on that point because you can't even fathom that it's some kind of actual war. It has to be a genocide for you. Like, there's nothing else to say about it. Like, I'm sorry.
Snake. And a piece of shit every time he was underwater. Every time he got into trouble because of Gamba or because of any number of different reasons why he was being a fucking asshole, he would turn around and be like, oh yeah, you guys are calling me an asshole? Guess you know who's a bigger asshole? Hasan. That's all he did for years and years and years, as a matter of fact. That is what I'm talking about here. That's it. If you can't see the difference between these two things, I don't know what to tell you. I never actually attacked Ethan. For literally an entire year, I defended Ethan. I did not attack Ethan. I defended him, okay? This is for all the girly pops that actually watch Ethan Klein and didn't get to see the full scope of my defense of Ethan, okay? I need to show you. This is the clip that I wanted to show on the podcast that he didn't let me play through, okay? I also kind of want to show like what he was saying in the same time frame about me. But here. We're also at 91,000 and 10 minutes into the video. Holy moly.
Mega Zionist, you are wrong, okay? Trust me. I don't think you know many Zionists if you think Ethan is a mega Zionist. Not even close, dude.
Can you imagine? Can you compare this to what fucking XQC was doing every time he was in trouble because he was like scamming his audience or doing other gambling fucking broadcasts or whatever, and he would still turn around. He would still fucking turn around and be like, oh, Hasan's a snake though. Something that he also recognized he was doing, by the way, when I had a conversation with XQC. XQC literally implied that I actually fucking hid sexual assault. And then openly admitted he was lying about that. And he shouldn't have done that. Think about that. Is this an apt comparison? XQC literally fucking lied and said me and Pokimane, two people who were against gambling on, unregulated cryptocurrency casinos on the website that we were on, were actually participating in a fucking cover-up of sexual assault. We were not, by the way, but he fucking said that. Do you think that that experience is comparable to, because that's the comparison he's making here, where he's like, oh, I demand XQC moderate his chat, but Hasan, you never moderate yours, right? That's what he's saying. Let's play this and I'm gonna play the clip.
Allowing that shit to run rampant in your chat, and I thought that was fucked up.
Ethan, I love you, but there's only so much I can do.
Especially as someone who thought we were fucking friends. I think that's a reasonable expectation for someone who you consider to be a friend.
The problem wasn't that he was pro-Palestinian, because I share a lot of those.
Yeah, let's see.
Is he watching his 8-minute video now for all the times he was nice to him? Wait. That avoids engaging with what people really want from him, Destiny, which is say something about the disproportionate response. There is no such thing as disproportionate response. That's a retard talking point. And I've gone over this whole fucking conflict months and months ago. That doesn't make sense. Nobody in the entire universe views any type of response that way when you're committing terrorist attacks. Nobody does that. Nobody was saying like, oh my God, in Afghanistan, we killed 3,000 people. And, they only killed 2,000 some in 9/11. So like the numbers have to match. Like that's such a retarded, empty talking point. You shouldn't be allowed to talk about international conflict if you're just trying to compare numbers, okay? Like some autistic fucking Rain Man. Stop. It's so stupid. It's such a stupid fucking talking point. Jesus.
Let's see. First, I'll show you this. Backtrack. XQC apologized to Hasan for assault cover-up claims. Says it crossed the line.
Other stuff about like me feeling like we have a falling out over the course of years and that sort of thing. That stuff is whatever. We can even have that like drama and that conversation live, which we discussed on the episode as well. That sort of stuff we can hash out in public. But there are lines, and I think that XQC knows he crossed it as well.
He quotes himself. He was context-based.
I mean, he admitted it.
Anyway, let's see. Now, ironically enough, Ethan is right now doing exactly what XQC did for years and years in the same exact way, constantly fucking lying about me to his audience over and over again, claiming that I'm actually a piece of shit, I'm a bad guy, I'm a misogynist, I'm this and that, in an effort to basically poison the fucking well so that no one actually comes in here and hears what I have to say and go, oh my God, wait a minute, maybe that's not the case. So I hope that...
What? That actually makes absolutely no sense and is not aligned with your prior talking points. You'd nuke Afghanistan in response to 9/11? No, I'm not saying you nuke Afghanistan. I'm saying that you don't look at a terrorist attack and create a proportional... There is no proportional response to a terrorist attack. That's not... You don't... Proportionality exists when both sides are playing by the rules of war. So Iran and Israel attacking each other, or Iran and the United States attacking each other, generally speaking, engage in levels of proportionality. When Israel attacked the embassy, or that attachment to the embassy in... the consulate in Syria, and bombed that one thing, Iran said, wow, Israel bombed that thing, we're gonna bomb Israel. And then Iran bombs Israel, and then Israel said, wow, you bombed us, we're gonna come and bomb you. And then Israel bombs them. That's a proportional response. When we killed Soleimani and Iran said, wow, you killed Soleimani, we're gonna bomb, you know, your 2 embassies or military bases, and then they try to bomb it, and this is proportional response. When somebody does a terrorist attack, they're trying to murder as many civilians as possible, they're just trying to kill as many civilians as possible with no clear military objective in mind, then that's not, there's no proportionality assessment that's done there. Nobody's saying like, okay, well, they did a terrorist attack, they killed 400 people, so we're going to do what, a counter-terrorist attack? That's not how these proportionality assessments work. Except one side cannot play by the same set of rules. We can acknowledge that and be honest about it. You're permabanned. You're permabanned, and you should legitimately consider buying the thickest rope you can buy. What a stupid fucking argument. When you say that one side can't play by the rules of war, then that's not so you've fallen into the trap. It's not even a trap. It's more like you're walking into, like, willingly, like the retard chamber of saying one side is allowed to engage in infinite harms against the other civilian population just because it's a smaller force. What a stupid fucking talking point. That's an implicit, dumb. That's an explicit support for terrorism. What you're basically saying there is every single group in the world should engage in terrorist actions as long as it's against a larger foe, because that other foe can't respond because all we can do is terrorism. What a stupid fucking point.
This will be helpful for you to understand. My position on Ethan has changed throughout time, but while Ethan was actively fucking gaslighting his audience and poisoning the well and constantly claiming I was a piece of shit and bad and not doing enough to moderate my community, which he still maintains is a decent thing to say about me, this is what I was doing instead.
Time and time again, I've spoken about how Ethan is not your enemy. A person who cries
nice volume
when a Palestinian child dies is not your enemy. Okay? He's not. I've said these exact words over and over again. I told people in this community and people everywhere that will listen to what I have to say that you have to choose who you're actually angry at. There are people who are so loud and so proud about the ethnic cleansing campaign that Palestinians are experiencing currently. Go yell at them. He's been shitting on you on his members-only streams. I don't care. I don't care. Or literally shout on you yesterday and his coworker for saying from the river to the sea, sorry, dog. I don't care. I do not care. This is petty drama, okay? I don't care. And neither should you.
Is it a war where proportionality would apply, and therefore we cannot call it a genocide, or is it a terrorist attack where we cannot apply proportionality? What? You can have a genocide that runs concurrently with a war. I think in Yugoslavia, I think this was the case. You can genocide people and be at war with them at the same time. If somebody is engaging in activity where the explicit goal is to kill a group of people, not based on some military conflict, because you're trying to kill a group of people based on their ethnic background, or religious background, I think nationality maybe, right? And that's the goal, the special intent of trying to kill them, eliminate them because of that, that's a genocide. This can happen during a war, it can happen outside of a war. Like, I'm just saying that you don't proportionally respond to terrorist attacks, people that are trying to kill as many civilians as possible. That's just not how that works. Usually that's going to be a declaration of war that's going to happen afterwards. But the nation terrorist attacks somebody, they're probably going to get war declared on them afterwards. That's how it works.
Okay? I will always stand by Ethan's ability to empathize and want to learn.
I've always learned anyone who believes Jews have the right to self-determination could be considered a Zionist. What definition do you use for Zionism? Would you consider yourself Zionist? Zionism is basically just the idea that Jews have a right to, it's really Israel, to have a nation where they are the majority population and they have some kind of protection. That's what Zionism really means. Do I believe it? I think it's justifiable. I don't know if I'd go fully to call myself a Zionist, but I think they probably earn the right to have Israel now and maintain it as they see fit. So it probably qualifies me as a Zionist, I guess.
Okay? I will always stand by Ethan's ability to empathize and want to learn and want to change his perspective. Okay? That's it. Ultimately, Ethan has the capacity to arrive at a meaningful position because he has empathy for Palestinian people. He is literally better on this circumstance, this issue, than 99% of like Americans who are ultra-Zionists. Okay? I'm not saying the entire country is ultra-Zionist, but like 99% of Americans in the media, 99% of Americans in position of power that literally are just like unconditional support Israel. Shut the fuck up. I've always demonstrated that until it reaches a boiling point, that I will always be kind to those around me that I believe I can communicate with, that I can lead by empathy. Okay?
This has been my policy in perpetuity. You know this if you've been in here long enough. I fucking try.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to restart my kick stream real quick with a different encoder because people keep saying it does weird shit every now and then. One sec.
Tried with Aiden Ross, okay? And Ethan is not Aiden Ross. I think he will inevitably come around. Ethan's my friend. I think he's an empathetic person, and I hope that that is clear. No one, like, changing your perspective on an issue that is, like, near and dear to your fucking heart is virtually impossible. It's one of the hardest things you can do. I will forever have respect for him for doing that on his own, okay? Everything that people say cynically he did to, like, win favors of the larger crowd, fuck that. He did it on his own. Yes, you want to know why I know he did it on his own? Okay? You want to know why I know he did it on his own? Because look at the situation. He has family in Israel. He's absolutely shaped, like his worldview is shaped by this experience. And instead of just like writing off every single thing that people have said and very comfortably finding himself in the bosom of like Zionist sentiment, which he could have just as easily done. He could just turned around and been like, yeah, fuck this shit. I'm scared. These people are being anti-Semitic, and there is a lot of anti-Semitism that increases in times like this. That much is absolutely true. Instead of fucking turning around and being like, fuck that, he's like trying to tackle it head on and go through the internal conflict, the internal struggle that he feels with his own personal experience, with his own personal worldview and his morality and the way that he sees it from what he perceives as a completely hostile audience. And you need to, as a community, also stop fucking ripping into Ethan non-stop. As I've said it over and over again, leading up to the conversation that we had on this broadcast. You guys are so fucking stupid. And Ethan refused to watch this on stream because it would make him feel guilty and look bad. Yeah, no, the reason why he didn't want his audience to watch this, the reason why he did not want his audience to...
What does it say about your audience if you have to constantly tell them over and over again to stop harassing Ethan? What does that mean?
Watch this, by the way, is because he knows that if his audience actually saw this, then it would undermine the year-long propaganda campaign that he engaged in, claiming that I was never actually defending him. Thank you for Stand Up to Cancer, y'all. This is huge. I'm so grateful. Hell yeah, iDubbbz. iDubbbz in the chat. Yeah, we're already at 94,000.
Hell yeah, iDubbbz.
For doing that. You are. And it frustrates me to no fucking end. I've told you this time and time again in this time frame. Just like I kept telling you, Ethan is not your enemy over and over again. That's why I love iDubbbz, Ethan as well. People that have actually changed. I'm sure that if you were to log what he was saying in this time frame for Ethan, there would be a very, very different attitude from Ethan's side on this, by the way.
I think Zionism mandatorily includes the idea that God gave them land, so it's theirs by right. I don't feel like originally Zionism meant that when they were setting up early on. Maybe after 67, I think it started to take on a more religious bend, but it doesn't have to include the religious aspect to it. Although there are undeniably some Jews who do like that aspect of it. The more radical ones will now, but
when talking about me or making snide remarks about pro-Palestinian content creators, there's a reason why so many people were coming into my community and being like, hey, Ethan said this, hey, Ethan said that, can I get your take on it? And people were pissed off at me for not giving my take on it. And the reason for why I did not want to give my take on it was because I thought that Ethan was redeemable. I thought that Ethan was salvageable. I foolishly thought that he actually could see the light. I assumed that he was, at most, a liberal Zionist who had been far more critical of Israel than the average liberal Zionist that could be amenable to my position. Okay? I was wrong. I was fucking wrong. I'm sure if we were to match every single time people are coming in here to tell me at that point what Ethan is saying about me, the reason why I was being charitable is because I thought, like, no, he'll, just give up. He'll come to terms. He'll come to the correct position on his own terms. Okay? Same reason you don't talk about Bad Empanada drama video, ironically. Exactly. Because I thought, with Bad Empanada, it's different. Like, with Bad Empanada, I know he's pro-Palestine, and I know he's not an anti-Semite. So, of course, when he fucking does, like, dumb drama shit, I'm like, I don't care. I don't care about this. I don't care about what his criticisms are. We have different methods. We have different tactics. But ultimately, we align on this issue. So as long as he is not weirdly becoming like an anti-Semite or weirdly becoming someone who's like pro-Palestine, which is, of course, never going to happen, I don't give a shit what he has to say.
Wait, what?
Like an anti-Semite or weirdly becoming someone who's like pro-Palestine, which is,
Does he mean anti-Palestine or am I misunderstanding him?
Of course, never going to happen. I don't give a shit what he has to say.
He's talking about Bad Empanada, right?
Thank you for the 2K dono.
I think you just misspoke, I think.
I want to know what you think. Why is Ethan Klein mad at me? The reason why Ethan Klein is mad at me
Sex Destiny
is because his community, slowly but surely, kept hearing him over time say a bunch of shit that was pro-Israel. Okay? Oh, pro-Israel for Bad Empanada is the argument that I was making. Sorry. If Bad Empanada became pro-Israel, which is never going to happen, I would, I would tackle everything that he's saying head on. Of course, that's not the case.
There you go.
You don't want to attack other pro-Palestine content creators, even if they attack you. Exactly.
Wow.
Exactly. So listen. If you reached him sooner, do you think there's a different tactic that would have...
Why? Am I answering this question again? Where can you draw the line, though? If Israelis' bombing campaign resulted in the death of every single Gaza civilian, would it not be categorized as a bad thing, if not genocide? I can't. You're gone. I can't deal with... There can be bad things that aren't genocide. Yes, there are undeniably bad things that Israel has done in this past war, some of which probably amount to war crimes. I don't know how rotted your brain is or how mind-fucked you are, why you're still even in my audience, if your mind is like, but wait a second, can it be bad though if it's not genocide? Like, could there ever be a bad thing if it's not? But I thought if it was bad, it had to be genocide. You're saying it's not genocide, so that must mean it's not bad. I don't know why you're even watching me still. Please go the fuck away. So stupid. Oh my God.
But to fix them? No, there wasn't. Because 2K here, Israel doesn't permit me to send this donation to my family in Gaza. Instead, I'm happy to donate to Stand Up for Cancer. Cancer killed my aunt in Gaza 4 years ago after Israel prohibited entry of her chemotherapy into the Strip. Free Palestine. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you're doing all right. The reason why Ethan was mad at me is because his community kept hearing him over and over again over the course of all of this time when they were coming into my chat to be like, hey, Ethan said this, Ethan said that. They were pissed off at him. They obviously were fans of him. Otherwise, why the fuck would they know what Ethan is saying? And they were pissed off at him for his commentary because his commentary was always running defense for Israel. Okay? And slowly but surely, people started leaving or criticizing him. And he couldn't deal with that criticism. So he had to point the criticism in one direction. So in his mind, he thought, I actually brainwashed his fucking audience into hating him anti-Semitically. And not because, for many in his audience, due to the sheer depravity of Israel's actions.
So what are the guidelines for a reaction to a terrorist attack? Can a terrorist attack be alongside a legit war campaign? Are war crimes considered terrorist attacks when they were on civilians? It was an attack that happened outside of a time of war with no declaration of war. So it would give Israel a reason to respond with a declaration of war. So Israel, from an international conflict perspective, is rightfully allowed to declare war on and then go to war with the government of Gaza, with Hamas. That's how that would work.
They had completely had a reversal of their opinion on Israel. I didn't do anything. As a matter of fact, I tried to do my very best to get people to shut the fuck up about Ethan. And this is the proof of it. And the reason why I try to get people to shut the fuck up about Ethan is because I think it's irrelevant what he had to say in this process. And I maintained that position until his own ego inflated to such a size that he made this fucking context nuke, and also simultaneously made this context nuke after months and months and months of actively trying to deplatform and successfully deplatforming pro-Palestinian content creators by falsely smearing them as anti-Semites. Of course, recognize their mistakes in the past and now advocate against those sorts of things, I think are very valuable, because every single person has a reactionary perspective deep down inside on one issue. We are all totally susceptible to the intersectionality of privilege. Privilege causes us to have blind spots.
Members go up.
Ethan is my friend.
Thank you for the 50 gifted subs.
We may have disagreements every now and then, but I have maintained the position that his heart is always in the right place, and he's on a journey of learning. Every single day I went live in the beginning, every single day I would spend at least 5 minutes to 30 minutes talking about how Ethan is not your enemy. You should not yell at Ethan. Ethan is a good person. Be more charitable to those who are open and susceptible to your opinions. Every single day. I'm still friends with Ethan, by the way. I still talk to Ethan every day. Every single day. Throughout the stream. Just say Ethan is a fucking idiotic take. Ethan and I obviously have disagreements on this stuff, but Ethan has also personally said it isn't apartheid. What the fuck do you want? As a dude who did go on Birthright, he is infinitely more progressive than, a lot of these people that are writing these fucking, a lot of these people that are writing these letters and shit, okay? Please, stop fucking yelling about Ethan all the time. Jesus Christ. Time and time again, I told my adult community to shut the fuck up about Ethan. I even banned the mention of Ethan in this community, and I think still to this day, it is banned. The idea that I did not try to genuinely scale back the harassment that Ethan was experiencing is ridiculous.
How you do PR for Ethan Klein, who's a Zionist? You do PR for Ethan Klein, who's a Zionist. How can you tell her not to defend a Zionist when you defend Ethan Klein, who's openly Zionist?
Based.
Are you okay? Ethan Klein called Israel an apartheid state in, I think, 2021. Okay? Ethan himself has been very critical of the state of Israel and has even called it an apartheid state far before October 7th. Okay? I personally don't even care if he's like calling me out or whatever. I heard that like people were saying that Ethan talked about me on his podcast today or some shit like that. I don't care. I genuinely don't care. For me, you know what I do care about? Ethan considering what Israel's doing to be genocidal far before October 7th. Okay? I do care about that. I think that matters. Especially when he is...
You know what's crazy about this? I think this is literally the mentality that some foot soldiers still have.
Yeah, how is it if Hasan is assuring his audience in all these things that Ethan is like so salvageable and that they're overreacting to what Ethan is saying, but also Ethan is being a crazy pro-Zionist lunatic the entire time? I don't understand how they reconcile these points ever, but whatever. Okay.
Like, they unironically still are trapped in this bind where they think, oh no, he's my comfort character and he means well. He actually means well. He's like, he said it's a genocide. What more do you want? Okay? And I said this even though I could identify the Hasbara, because I thought, as someone who is very good at identifying Hasbara, I maintained this position because I thought...
Hasbara is this stupid Israeli term for when they try to do like propaganda to make their country look better. And they suck at it.
Over time, his perspective would shift.
But it's a way to label basically anybody that ever says anything positive about Israel ever. You just say they're engaged in Hasbara, like propaganda for the government.
Over time, I thought he would be an anti-Zionist. I was wrong. I was totally fucking wrong. is so close to the subject matter, so close to the different aspects of social conditioning that play a pretty prominent role in the development of American Jews, who are very progressive people overall. Okay? I don't care. No matter what he says about me, my community, or my mods, I still... While you were doing this, Ethan was doing things like watching a video called Hasan saying anti-Semitism is fake. The Hasan situation. Addressing Hasan and his community. Firmly believe, okay? I still firmly believe that regardless of everything else, regardless of how he's responded to people yelling at him online, regardless of all of that, I place a lot more emphasis and a lot more value on those things that he has said. Ethan fan here. I don't think that Ethan's behavior is honestly dangerous. He's not always right. Neither are you. All right, brother, you are irredeemable if you genuinely think that Ethan's year-long conquest of trying to fucking out-Palestinian content creators and pro-Palestinian content creators as like rabid anti-Semites, who now the Trump administration is basically fucking using as a hit list, if you don't consider that to be genuinely dangerous for an issue that you seemingly care about, if you think that there's a fucking genocide going on in Israel, if you think Israel's doing a genocide, I assume that his focus on the people who are calling that out is a little unproductive. And yes, it is fucking dangerous. What the fuck is wrong with you? It's dangerous twofold. One is dangerous because it actually creates insane amounts of pressure and potential criminal litigation if need be. But also on top of that,
that guy's crazy.
On top of that, he's gone after fucking people that he's doxxed. He's gone after people with litigation, frivolous litigation. Real life decision makers are feeling no pressure. That's the bad side. Dude, he is 100 millionaire who's using all of his fucking clout to attack pro-Palestinian content creators for a fucking year, and has actually been very successful at deplatforming pro-Palestinian content creators by making erroneous claims about how anti-Semitic these pro-Palestinian content creators are.
Okay.
He made 6 small content creators lose their income for a fucking month. One of them was Jewish.
Oh no.
It's his community that is weaponized aggressively against all of his fucking enemies. And in the past, his enemies were people like Keemstar. So no one actually thought of anything about it. No one actually thought it was weird or gross. Or billionaires like fucking Ryan Kavanaugh. Now his enemies are seemingly all of the pro-Palestinian content creators. Whether they're Muslim or Jewish doesn't fucking matter. He literally shit on Sam Cedar the other day.
That's crazy.
Stop both sidesing this fucking issue. You're out of your goddamn mind.
On. He actually chastised me. For what? Let's see.
Ethan is very frustrated and very emotional in this moment, but doesn't recognize that, like, perhaps a Lebanese woman who's a hijabi in the United States of America could also be very emotional in this exact same moment.
God.
You know what I mean? Like, that's what's so... And the reality of the matter is, anti-Semitism is an unacceptable form of bigotry, whereas Islamophobia is a very acceptable form of bigotry. So being the bigger person in the situation, regardless of your feelings...
So anyway, and God forbid you actually read the chat. But...
That's it? So I'm still being fucking open-minded to him? And he's mad?
What I'm hearing, frankly, is that anti-Semitism is not really an issue. And so you shouldn't, your complaints are less equal than Frogan's complaints because Islamophobia is more serious than anti-Semitism. Despite, by the way, the fact that, as I pointed out, in reality, or not the opposite because there is Islamophobia, but like this claim that anti-Semitism doesn't exist because everybody knows it wrong, as I perceiving it, is absolutely false. I've never seen more open anti-Semitism in my life.
So, it's his stupidity? Like, he didn't understand? He didn't fucking understand what I was saying there? That's not my point at all. How the fuck does his chat watch this, by the way, and not go, hey, Ethan, that's not what he said?
My whole life, the way that it's being...
I called out how toxic Hasan's community is, and I said I remember why I left, and he brought up my chat logs and put me on blast. That was fun.
Damn. Ethan is a token Jew who is more busy apologizing for Israel's misdoings, trying to earn favor with little anti-Semites, hoping they'll applaud him. He got burnt, shot in fraud 100%. A little bit. Although you sound like a crazy Israeli, but kind of. That's kind of what happened
to him. And the right. And it's being kind of, you know, in a case like this, he's normalizing it. He's normalizing it. He's greenlighting it. Again.
I'm normalizing anti-Semitism and I'm greenlighting it. You get banned in chat for pushing back? Textbook example of competitive victimhood. There is no fucking victimhood here. He is he's conflating real anti-Semitism with anti-Zionists criticizing him, a Jewish man, not realizing that they're not criticizing him because he's Jewish. They're criticizing him because of what he's fucking saying.
Which is something that like 90% of Jewish people believe.
That's at the heart of the matter here. That's the whole problem.
True based.
I made a fucking good point here. I literally said what I'm saying right now. I said, Ethan does not understand that Islamophobia is institutionally permissible, and what he suspects as anti-Semitism is not anti-Semitism, and he should be more gracious to people that he perceives as being anti-Semitic when it's actually over his opinions on Israel. I genuinely think Ethan Klein thinks that anti-Semitism is whatever he feels bad.
True.
Got you with the $10. Fuck cancer. No, I'm not done with your little ass yet.
True.
Right. Well, I wanted to watch this. There's very real anti-Semitism directed towards him, directed towards Jewish people across the board, and that fucking terrifies him. And I think that there's a real element there for a lot of Jewish people, especially. Like, yeah, they see anti-Semitism rising. And if at any point do they actually associate criticism of Israel with anti-Semitism, and people like Dan Bilzerian play a fucking formative role in people, all the way up until December 15th, I'm saying like, oh, I think Ethan is misunderstanding and making a conflation, still giving him charity, still giving him grace. This is what he was saying about me at the time.
So you know what? Go listen to Hasan. People say, I need to go listen to Hasan. This is bullshit. Please, go listen to Hasan. Who fucking, by the way, yells at people in chat, calls them Zionist genocidal monsters for suggesting that the hospital wasn't bombed, okay, by the IDF, which is the same fucking thing the Hasan's fans come and tell me. So fuck that. There's nothing wrong with me and Hasan, but there's a lot of shit that on the way that he covers this that I think is fucked up.
Okay, 500 of the last confirmed kills did not come from Israel. So what, are you just mad only when Hamas kills people then? Because that's what you're saying.
I'm mad when all people die, but I don't think he or many people seem to care when Hamas kills a bunch of their people.
True.
I mean, that's what I'm saying.
Dude, I can't believe the counter rocket barrage from the Hamas teams on the ground actually caused these 500 people to die in the fucking hospital. Dude, what the fuck are you saying? What about the 3,000 people that died in the fucking week prior by Israeli bombs?
I don't understand the theory that like the truth doesn't matter. Someone said, hey, I don't think Israel bombed the hospitals according to the evidence. Something like really mild. And he freaks the fuck out.
I wonder why I freaked the fuck out.
Yeah, bro.
This is right after Al-Ahli.
Oh, he still thinks so. That hospital was, I think it was I think it was a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket, I think is what the theory was in terms of it malfunctioned, and it fell into this parking lot. It left, there was a very small crater on the ground. It looked like it was like some kind of rocket that blew up, not a fucking JDAM like people like Hasan say. But people try to say that Israel intentionally bombed a hospital that killed like 500 people, when in reality it was probably a rocket that fucked up and then it fell to the ground and blew up. And I think there were, I don't know how many people died. I think it was a few dozen casualties. I don't think that many people died, but people still, like Hasan, will still push it to this day that was a targeting of an Israeli hospital that killed 500 people, or a targeting of a Palestinian hospital on the Gaza Strip that killed 500 people when there's no evidence of that.
No wonder his fucking audience understandably thought that he was defending Israel. Can you imagine? Can you imagine claiming Israel would never bomb a hospital? I don't understand. This is definitely the doing of Palestinian Islamic Jihad or Hamas or whatever the fuck Israel said without any evidence whatsoever. Okay? Yeah, I didn't know this shit. This is my first time seeing it. Yeah, of course people are gonna think you're a fucking Zionist. This is Zionist propaganda. This is precisely what it is. Oh, I care when all Palestinians die, except it's really fucked up that you would say Israel bomb a hospital. Does Ethan know?
This is Hasan's initial reaction.
If I make a prediction or a speculation, it can sometimes be wrong.
This is over other stuff, but
It can sometimes be wrong. IDF didn't bomb the hospital? Yes, it did. Yes, it fucking did. You fucking piece of shit. Yes, it absolutely did. Fuck you. Fuck you. Genocidal scumbag. You have no fucking dignity. You do not have an ounce of dignity inside of your soul. You fucking piece of shit. You garbage, monstrous scumbag. You garbage, monstrous scumbag. Why did you fucking lie? How can you live with yourself, you genocidal piece of shit? If I make a prediction or a
where's the JDAM one?
Oh, that Israel actually bombed the Al-Ahli hospital.
Destiny, both sides are bad. I've yet to see you cover any of the fucked up shit Israel does. I've covered it plenty and I've mentioned it plenty. The reason why you don't see it is because you want a concession that I would never make, which is that Israel intentionally and deliberately spends $1 million in some type of weapon to shoot and kill like 50 civilians, which is a retarded perspective. Nobody intelligent believes that. Israel has probably conducted this war in a way that is, or clearly conducted it in a way that was probably too fast and too reckless, because there are some civilian attacks that absolutely shouldn't have happened. Like the WCK one is the best example of it. But like retards like you are like, I bet that the Israeli military people, they were in an office, they're like, oh my God, we should fucking spend all this money on these, some of the most expensive munitions we have, and do ISR, we're going to figure out where these trucks are, and then we're just going to fucking shoot these $500,000 missiles, these $1 million drone attacks on these civilian trucks, and it's going to be fucking epic. That's a retarded perspective. You don't deserve to talk about anything if you're that fucking stupid. Holy shit.
A week prior, 2 days before the courtyard explosion, Israel actually blew up and artillery shelled the fucking radiology room in the Al-Ahli hospital. I wonder why all the doctors in the Al-Ahli hospital were like, oh, Israel did this. Perhaps they're all in the pocket of Hamas. That was also a pivotal point for a lot of, these fucking dipshits. The apolitical centrist commentators all jumped on that to be like, Hasan is lying to people. Israel would never bomb a hospital. So where are they now? Where are they now? Israel's bombed every fucking hospital, including Al-Ahli, over and over.
Again, nobody has said that Israel never bombs a hospital, but this is he's giving the weak version now. Israel's obviously attacked hospitals. The question is whether or not the hospitals were targeted for no military purpose. You can target a hospital for a military purpose. That is part of the rules of war, but nobody cares or wants to talk about legality or whatever anyway, but they still want to say war crimes, but...
Again, Israel sieged every hospital since then. Now, when you hear Ethan Klein's perspective on this matter, Now, when you hear Ethan's perspective on the matter, he turns around and says it's because Hamas is putting fucking people under tunnels inside of the hospital. That's why Ethan has to, or Ethan, that's why Israel has to bomb these hospitals. That's what he said to Sam Cedar the other day, or no, before his talk with Sam Cedar. Think about that. Oh, they have command centers under these fucking hospitals. That's why it's Hamas's fault that Israel has to bomb these hospitals anyway. Has he covered any of those fucking strikes? No. The only time I've heard him talk about hospitals being bombed was here when he's trying to say that it was actually the Palestinians that blew themselves up. And how fucked up it is that I'm casting suspicion on that narrative, which, by the way, still to this day, no fucking conclusive evidence, and the only evidence that Israel ever presented on the matter was immediately destroyed.
And he goes, "You're a genocidal freak." And then people say the same fucking thing to me from his fan base, and we're acting like surprised, like we don't know where they fucking learned that from. Like, I learned it from you, Dad. I think it's covered.
Yeah, this is perfectly representative of his mentality. This is perfectly representative of his mentality. Everyone in his fan base learned it from me.
In some of these cases has been not good. Thought we needed leftovers more than ever. Yeah, I changed my mind. I mean, what do you want me to do? It was fucking horrible. I feel like Hasan's fans were trying to destroy my life. My wife's life. They were calling me genocidal. For what? For what? But I do think he's contributing to this idea that all Israelis are, you know, occupiers, which is a really dangerous fucking stance to take.
Why? Doesn't matter. Terrible that the people died, but I encourage you to look into where Hamas was firing.
Why is it dangerous to claim that all Israelis are occupiers? By the way, what Hasan is doing there, if you don't notice, is he's giving cover to that from the river to the sea. That is what they think. Every Israeli is an occupier, not just the ones in the West Bank. That's what they sell to white people in my fucking YouTube chat that want to simp for these stupid slogans, right? It is that every Israeli is an occupier, including the children, including the civilians, including everybody, and they all need to be eliminated. That is the more honest argument from the pro-Valley perspective. But
you fucking piece of shit, you garbage monstrous scumbag, you garbage monstrous scumbag. You said IDF didn't bomb the hospital, and then you said it did, but Hamas was firing rockets from it in the same 2-minute time frame. So why did you fucking lie at first? Huh? Why did you fucking lie? How can you live with yourself?
By the way, for the record, the IDF did not bomb that fucking hospital.
You genocidal piece of shit.
People were telling me the same exact fucking thing, you know what I mean? I know that this isn't good. I don't think this is a good way to talk about shit. Even if you're angry and fucking horrible things are...
Oh my God, you know what's really funny? I'm also fundraising even back then. That's when I was fundraising for Palestinian medical assistance. I wonder who's clipping it and sending this to Ethan. Yeah, I don't care who's clipping it and sending it to Ethan. Admitting his view of Palestinians by saying he thinks Hasan views all Israelis as the same because he expects Hasan to think about Israelis the same as he does Palestinians. Yes.
Jesus.
Wonder why he's wonder why he's actually so sympathetic to the person who's defending Israel here, by the way. I wonder why. And this was early on. This was right after the fucking Al Ahli hospital was bombed.
Is there any evidence of Israel using white phosphorus? I don't know. Yeah, they do use white phosphorus. The argument is not whether or not they use white phosphorus. It's what application they have for it. So white phosphorus is nice because you can blow it up in an area and provide like basically an instantaneous smoke screen for troops to move through an area. But the accusation was that they were using it in an aggressive manner. And the reason why people don't like you using white phosphorus in an aggressive manner is because it can cover a wide area that can subject a lot of civilians to harm. And you're not supposed to be like using weapons like that lack a level of precision if you have other options available to you.
Okay, right after then. And for an entire fucking year, I was oblivious. Until this very moment, I'd never seen his commentary on this. Of course, people thought he was a fucking genocidal monster.
Jesus.
What the fuck are you talking about? Oh my Lord. Yeah, it was only because I was completely oblivious to the shit that he was saying at the time that I was like, listen, man, I care about covering this genocide. I don't give a fuck about what Ethan has to say about this. I don't want to make drama out of this. I care about fucking locking in, and you should too.
Lock in.
In that same time frame, while I was defending him all the way up until December 15th, 2024, that's what Ethan was doing. So the expectation that I am supposed to brainwash my audience into liking Ethan Klein is impossible. Of course, plenty of people who are more educated than Ethan on this, or at least have basic empathy towards the Palestinian plight on this issue, of course, arrived at their own fucking conclusion, regardless of my year-long effort to fucking defend Ethan, because I was also oblivious to his actual position. If I had seen his actual position a long time ago, I would have fucking shoved it back down his goddamn throat as a genocidal piece of shit.
Jesus.
Okay?
This is why people will say, me included, it's just not worth it to cuck out. I don't think well, is it fair to hold up Hasan as a person you should be trying to please here? I guess even if you totally cuck out on the genocide argument, which Ethan has completely cucked out to the pro-Pally framing here of this argument. I just don't know what the value is in doing it because people are still going to just claim that you're a genocidal freak, genocidal supporter anyway. So like, what's the point?
And here's the reality. He looked at all of this, and he could not comprehend that, in spite of my defenses of Ethan Klein, that it was actually me. I was the reason why I was making anti-Semitism permissible. Yeah, Ethan thought this specific hospital was bombed by Hamas, but every other building in a 20-kilometer radius was bombed by Israel, even though the hospital itself was also bombed by Israel 2 days prior.
views, and I've been a stalwart supporter of the Palestinian cause for many years. Problem with Hasan.
By the way, I want to fucking here. This is your opportunity, okay?
What?
Show me all the fucking things Ethan said in this time frame. I know we're only 11 minutes in. I don't care. Give me all the fucking Ethan clips that in this time frame where he was like from the beginning to the end, all the times that this motherfucker was actually defending Israel, so we can make an assessment on whether or not it was actually appropriate for people to think that he was pro-genocide or anti-genocide. Stalwart supporter, he says. Why'd you say at Hasan Abi? What? Stalwart supporter of Palestine. What will he say? Wait, hold on. One second.
One sec, guys.
Yeah, he was going to show you all the support that he's done. Yeah, let's see.
Hasan's coverage, and a lot of people like him, was their complete lack of empathy for the Jewish people who were frankly slaughtered by Hamas. He refused to show even a crumb of empathy for the Jewish victims. But listen to what this guy has to say.
And as you might have seen, there was some sort of rave or desert party where they were having a great time until the resistance came in electrified hang gliders and took at least several dozen
This is
hipsters.
unhinged, dude.
But I'm sure they're doing very fine despite what the New York Post says. But nobody had seen this coming.
I mean, that's insane, right?
I haven't even. Yeah. Okay. Like,
Okay.
I don't.
criticizing people. You don't have to comment if you're not comfortable about it. I honestly felt at times that he and his audience barely thought of Israelis as humans. But this dude just called babies militants.
No, I understand, and there are baby settlers as well. But there are baby settlers as well. There are babies in the settlements.
Part of running defense for Hamas is
I can't believe he literally clip-chimped conversations that we had together. Like, how depraved. How fucking depraved that he would go back to a back-and-forth conversation that we had to clip a conversation that we had out of context. You know what my fucking position was. My position is for a one state. The reason why I...
What position or context can salvage the baby settler statement? What? Is that salvageable? I'm not sure if that one is salvageable, Chief.
believe in a one state is because I don't even think the 750,000 settlers could be, in an ethical manner, moved from all of the land that they have occupied as terrorists. I was saying, you think every settler is a valid military target. There are settler babies. I didn't say I think it's valid to kill settler babies.
Just to be clear, I'm pretty sure he co-signed the statement that that one guy made, Second Thought, on the podcast. He's basically echoing what he said about how even baby settlers are a thing or whatever, but okay.
What an insane thing to do. It's a literal conversation that we had. It was a back and forth conversation that we had. And Ethan also said this, what?
I've even said the West Bank settlers are valid military targets. When you talk
Yeah. Okay, that's later in the clip. This is still the context nuke, but it's later in the clip. We haven't even gotten there yet. It's so crazy that this motherfucker clip-chimped. He clip-chimped our own back and forth. What a fucking crazy thing to do.
downplaying the violence.
Wait, so then this is one of those opportunities for Hasan. Hasan is saying you got clip-chimped. Clip-chimped how? So do you think that babies aren't legitimate military targets? Or you should just say that, right? So like all Israeli civilians then wouldn't be legitimate military targets, right? That should be a pretty easy thing to say. That's like an easy own, right? You can just say that. Like, obviously, I don't think all civilians are, and like babies are not military targets. But instead, he just made some weird allusion to, I believe in a one-state solution. Why not just say that?
Violence, specifically the sexual violence, which he's done a lot of.
Doesn't matter if fucking rapes happen on October 7th. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this much. Now, this is a famous clip that he kept repeating and using. We now know that he actually recognizes that he disingenuously edited.
Oh, okay.
Show the clip of Ethan and Gila.
Can I add, Ethan, one
Yes.
personal feeling that I've had with Hasan that I can't really get past is his dismissiveness of the that happened. He acts like
October 7th. Doesn't matter if our words happened on October 7th. It doesn't change the dynamic for me. What's interesting about that quote specifically is that I get what he means in that one. Like, I felt like he said weird stuff in that. Because he's saying, like, he's saying even if the R words happened, well, I think the way he phrases it is fucked up. Even if it happened, they did happen.
Yes.
But he's saying, even if they did happen, it wouldn't change the calculus for him, which I understand what he's saying. But I guess the way he's saying it is, even if it didn't happen, it's fucked up.
I didn't say even if it didn't happen. I said even if it did happen, it still doesn't change the calculation for me. Now, ironically enough, that argument was when I, because of the last piece of evidence that hadn't come out yet with like the Israeli prosecution team going over the forensic analysis of every single body that they put at the Shura base, okay?
Why do they have to be one state? Doesn't that sound insane? Because for people like Hasan, the goal is the destruction of Israel. Israel cannot exist. It needs to be destroyed. It cannot exist as a Jewish state or whatever. That's why. They'll try to dress that up or say it differently, but that at the end of the day, that's the reason why.
Literally was debating a chatter, and I know we have the clip for this. Here's the full context.
Also, how are you?
I'm literally debating a chatter who is denying any rapes took place. Let's take a look.
Sure, Israel didn't force them to lie. That's ridiculous.
By the way, none of which justifies Israel's actions. So it doesn't even matter. None of this justifies that Palestinians have a right to dignity, a right to emancipation, a right to live fucking free lives, free from this occupation. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if fucking rapes happen on October 7th. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me even this much. So that's the other part of this problem that many people can't contend with. Like, the Palestinian resistance is not perfect. They're not, like, so good. They have magical bullets.
Jesus.
And there's no criminal elements that could have conducted themselves very differently. Like, that doesn't change the dynamic for me at all. It's so fucking stupid to act like, no, they're perfect. They were perfect on October 7th, and they were conducting themselves perfectly.
It's such an unbelievable downplay.
But these kinds of stories delegitimize Palestinian resistance? No, it does not. What the fuck are you talking about? No, you think it delegitimizes Palestinian resistance. Okay? You think so. I don't. The fuck? Do you understand? My position is, I'm not expecting perfect victimhood from Palestinians. It will never stop to be insane how that clip makes you sound out of context. And ironically enough, it was me arguing against the chatter at the time that was saying, why don't you just say rapes didn't happen?
Many people are like, what the fuck? How am I going to believe this? Other, like, non-professional forensic accounting being conducted on October 7th. This has muddied the waters so much that understandably many people are like, what the fuck? How am I going to believe this? How am I supposed to believe anything that Israel says? There's a perfectly valid fucking criticism to have against the state that has lied every single step of the fucking way. Many hostages have records of saying two different things. Also, how are you sure Israel didn't force them to lie? That's ridiculous. By the way, none of which justifies Israel's actions. So it doesn't even matter. None of this justifies that Palestinians have a right to dignity, a right to emancipation, a right. What I'm saying is, rapes or no rapes doesn't fucking matter. Beyond October 7 and before October 7, Palestinians still have a right to dignity and self-determination. You cannot genocide people and be like, oh, well, they did rapes. Like, nothing justifies a genocide. Even another genocide doesn't justify a genocide. Do you understand? Like, would it be justified to genocide the entirety of the German population after the Holocaust? I still don't think so. There were fucking children. There's babies. You know what I mean? You're killing innocents.
There kind of was a mass ethnic cleansing of Germans from all of Europe, I think, after World War II. But, you know, that's neither here nor there, I guess.
Civilians. That's my perspective. And that's the most extreme position that you can arrive at. Genocide is not justice. That is why I don't believe in genociding the Israeli population. And I think it's a fucking ridiculous assessment of the situation. That's why I believe in a one-state solution. Justice is not vengeance. That's it. Can't believe he fucking used that. Even though he used this clip in the fucking context nuke when he personally understood what I meant right here. This is before the context nuke. This is from October 30th, 2024. So what's up with that? Why is it
up with that, guys?
Right here, Ethan understands what I'm saying, and then his wife stops him from understanding what I'm saying, and then he still chooses to put this clip in the fucking context nuke? So that's the other part of this problem that many people can't contend with. Like, the Palestinian resistance is not perfect. They're not, like, so good. They have magical bullets.
It's not really televised, guys.
That's so fucking gross, dude. That's so goddamn gross. He understood my position months before he still put this awful fucking joke. Awful, awful cringe-ass editing. Not even good for 2016-ass editing in a stupid fucking video, dude. Oh my god. You have to be genuinely mentally stunted to actually appreciate this. Oh my fucking lord.
Frankly, there are a lot of Palestinians, right, in the area. And once the Palestinians outnumber the Jews, basically, anything is fair game for the Jews. Anything. Is it really insane to think that Jews, as an ethnic minority in Israel, would not be safe?
Racist piece of shit. That's what he is.
True.
A racist dumbass.
True.
And the only reason why people don't see this horrifyingly, monstrously racist dumbassery is because they too are conditioned into thinking that Arabs...
The mall hasn't even begun yet? How much longer? When does it start? This is really boring. I thought it was going to be way more exciting. This sucks. How much longer until the mall starts?
Are fucking barbaric rapist monsters. The idea that equal rights for Arabs who are not Jewish and Arab Jews and Ashkenazi Jews and everybody in the region to have equal rights and equal representation would spell doom for the Jewish population of Israel is simply Jewish supremacist, racist, Islamophobic, anti-Arab garbage. And if you don't see that, you probably are also a fucking piece of shit.
Damn.
Okay? That's it. Oh my fucking Lord, I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. Of course people looked at that and were like, this is gross, dude. You're a fucking gross piece of shit. God damn, what a racist fucking monster he is.
Damn.
Oh my fucking Lord.
Damn.
Yeah, I know. We already talked about, I covered this before. Hila Klein, former IDF soldier and wife of Hila Klein, says that if Israeli with the Ramallah, they would be lynched. It's a fact. Literally, same type of propaganda used during the Jim Crow South and apartheid South Africa. And then he's like, why won't people think I'm actually pro-Palestine? Stalwart ally of the Palestinian plight, by the way. This fucking guy. This fucking guy.
There frankly are a lot of Palestinians, right, in the area. And once the Palestinians outnumber the Jews, basically, anything is fair game for the Jews.
Does
And
IDubs actually
once
come
the
in
white people
for
are
this
outpopulated
video? Is
by
that
the
true?
black people, anything is fair game. Oh my God. But is it weird to be afraid though? Yes. Yes, it's racist as fuck. What do you mean? Do you guys actually fucking, do you lose your mind when the term Jew comes into the equation, where you just have no capacity to understand Jewish people as the dominant majority group in the Jewish ethno-state? You're thinking anti-Semitism in the way that it exists in the fucking West, or has historically existed in the fucking West, while talking about Israel. What the fuck? Are you stupid? Are you dumb? Did this happen in apartheid South Africa? Is that what happened? Jews are taught to be...
Keep in mind, he keeps bringing up apartheid South Africa. That was the reason why Nelson Mandela specifically didn't want to engage in crazy terrorism attacks against civilian populations, because Nelson Mandela specifically wanted there to be a reconciliation. So it's funny that Pallies love to lean into the Irish, the IRA, and then the South African shit. These are like their favorite go-to examples historically. But
be afraid of Arabs is what I mean. I don't think they should. Yes, what you're describing is fucking racism. What the fuck? Would you ever be this gracious to any other group? Would you ever be this gracious to any other fucking group that came out and were like, well, these Arabs are, they're gonna rape us. They're gonna fucking kill us if we get equal rights. These blacks are gonna rape us if we get equal rights. Like, if a white person said that, you'd be like, what the fuck are you saying? We are all so trained to see Islamophobia as just like invisible. We don't even recognize it. We don't even think that it's like out of the norm. This is what I meant when I said anti-Semitism and Islamophobia are obviously bigotries that are completely unacceptable, okay? But Islamophobia has institutional permissibility. Anti-Semitism does not. You say anti-Semitic shit, you're gonna get fucking fired. Even if you don't say anti-Semitic shit, people still say you're saying anti-Semitic shit to get you fucking fired, like what Ethan is doing with me. When you say Islamophobic shit, they will literally have you, they will elevate you to the highest position of society. They'll be like, all right, great, thank you, please become the next fucking Secretary of Defense.
Hasan get fired from his job.
Look at Pete Hegseth. It's the double standard that exists. If someone were to say, what I consider to be obviously unjustifiable, but if someone were to fucking turn around and say, we must nuke Tel Aviv, then obviously that person would not only get banned, but probably imprisoned. But if you turn around and say, we must nuke Tehran, or we must nuke Gaza, you become a politician. You become an American politician. That's a normal position within the American political discourse. That's it. Pete Hegseth has a Deus Vult tattoo, okay? Talking about the fucking Crusades, which is ironically also not exactly too fond of the Jews either. He's a Christian nationalist. But could you imagine, like, he has a tattoo that says, like, kufar on his kafir on his arm in Arabic. Okay, to say, like, I am the one, I'm the infidel, I'm gonna fucking come and kill all you Arabs or whatever. He has all these goddamn borderline neo-Nazi tattoos, like the Jerusalem cross and shit, okay? If Pete Hegseth has a fucking swastika, people will be like, yeah, you can't be the Secretary of Defense, okay? Resistance is not perfect. They're not, like, so good. They have magical bullets. It's not perfect. Oh, this requires its own debunking. This is not correct, okay? I'm sorry, and I know it's going to fucking make you feel bad when I say this, or for Ethan, it's gonna make him feel really good because he's gonna be like, he's denying rape. Hamas did not mutilate and rape women on October 7. That actually was initial reporting. That was identified as incorrect. What this report is showing is something that fucking Rabbi Shmuley has also brought forward.
Not the Rabbi Shmuley guy.
Because he literally repeated it over and over and over again, okay? He said Hamas militants went in and cut the titties off of a Israeli woman and then cut the head off of an Israeli woman and then fucking played soccer with the head and the titty of an Israeli woman. Don't say I'm crashing out. He's crashing the hell out. You're crashing out. The fuck do you mean crashing out?
One guy, careful. Not the one guy.
So good. And even then, what is so crazy about this process is that I'm not even fucking denying that rapes happened in that one. He just clipped me out of fucking context.
Clip champ.
They stopped when they thought it was dead. The ordeal of Esther, raped and mutilated by Hamas terrorists. Cases of rape and sexual mutilation committed during October 7 massacre are surfacing. While survivors are still struggling to speak out, one of them, who participated in the Tribe of No Festival, agreed to tell us what she suffered. Now, I need you to understand something. This is in the immediate aftermath, okay? In the immediate aftermath. It's in November 26, 2023. It's understandable that the reporting on this was going to be murky at the fucking time, okay? I'm going to be as gracious as I possibly can be.
I'm not crashing out, guys! Shut up!
Denied all investigations into the matter. All the forensic evidence was basically fucking either destroyed or literally designed in a way to erroneously create a alternative fucking reality by Zaka. They did this, and there's plenty of reporting on this process, okay? Go back and look at all these fucking reports. Now, the reason why, let me explain something to you. Why is this important to me? Okay? Because the reality of the matter is, this is one of those things where it's like, it's the major no-no, okay? It's the biggest no-no of all time. And there is a likelihood that rapes did take place on October 7. It's just that there is no evidence for a Hamas-backed, systematized version of sexual assault that took place on October 7. It is logically already a very difficult thing to suggest, okay? But on top of that, it was one of the most live-streamed atrocities of all time. There are CCTV footages everywhere. There are body camera footages. Israel had access to every single Hamas militant's body camera footage, okay? They had it from every fucking angle. And they couldn't find one singular piece of fucking CCTV footage or visible evidence beyond photos that beyond photos that they claimed implied that sexual assault took place, including family members. I believe it was Shani Luke. Family members of Shani Luke came out and said, "Stop saying my daughter."
Where would this at the Nova Festival? Who would have been video recording somebody getting raped? What?
Daughter got raped. She did not get sexually fucking assaulted. Like, they literally would deny the wishes of the existing victims, the family members, to make this argument. Now, why is this important? Because there was a shit ton of atrocities that took place on October 7. It was brutal, okay? It was violent. They came in with hang gliders. It's a breakout from a fucking open air prison. Of course it was violent. It was like the Nat Turner rebellion.
And he does all of the Finkelstein examples, right? Like, bro, again, he's saying that like it was unjustifiable or I don't know if he actually said that, but he's like saying it was horrible and, like, but then he goes on to justify it, right? He's saying like, of course there was horrible stuff, but I guess it wasn't horrible because they were breaking out of an open air prison. I don't know what the point he's trying to make is here. So why not just own it and say, okay, fine, it was acceptable.
Okay? It was ruthless. It was violent. There was plenty of atrocities that took place, but it was important for Israel to actually increase the atrocities to the best of their ability in an effort to justify what was coming next. That's why it was important to do good journalism in this moment, in this very moment. That's why they went on with the babies in the ovens nonsense, or 40 babies were beheaded. Shit that, by the way, Ethan and Hila still repeat. Atrocity propaganda that justifies the unimaginable, untold amounts of terror that Israel subjected the entirety of the Palestinian population to. Okay? There's never been a moment where my analysis of the situation wasn't that October 7 was horrifying. It was absolutely considered an act of terror. It was. It's true. Still, the majority of the fucking people that were killed were civilians. Okay? That's unacceptable. But I understand what the conditions are that caused October 7 to happen. And if you can't have that fucking conversation, you don't want to solve the problem. You just want Palestinians to get slaughtered over and over again for 76 fucking years.
Damn. 76 fucking years, guys. 76 fucking years.
Ethan understood the gravity of accusing Israel of systematic sexual abuse on the last episode of Leftovers. When he provided a source on the spot, he didn't believe it and wanted more credible evidence. Weird how he understands the gravity when it's accusing Israel, but not when accusing Hamas, and those accusations are being used to justify genocide. Exactly. The irony, of course, is that I'm not even using Israel's previous reporting on the matter, that Israel has systematically raped Palestinian women and boys at checkpoints. And in their...
What's the difference between understanding why it happened versus justifying it? Obviously, it's not as justifying it because he thinks it's based. The difference is whether or not you think it's acceptable. You should try to understand why October 7th happened. Israel has, in my opinion, Israel has no desire to understand why it happened, which is why they're probably on a road to creating another one, but Israel thinks it's based as long as they can continue to maintain their advantages in other places. But the point is to ideally not repeat the event. But the problem is when you only extend understanding to one side, like we can understand why the Palestinians did it, but for the Israelis, we have no understanding whatsoever of why they do what they do. That's the problem, and that's what people like Hasan do. That's the issue.
Their detention facilities to justify October 7. I'm not even saying that. Some people do. I'm not doing that. This right here, for the record, this is the Esther case on display from Wikipedia. The New York Times changed her name to Sapir. October 2023, Israeli police showed multiple journals of video of a woman whom Le Parisien called Esther and BBC called Witness S, describing what she claims to have seen from her hiding place near the festival. A militant bent someone over, then Esther understood that he was raping the victim. The militant passed her on to someone else. She was still alive and bleeding from the back. The men cut off parts of her body, sliced her breast, threw it on the street, and played with it. Another militant raped her, then while still penetrating her, shot her in the head, and then ejaculated. 2 months later, in December 2023, the New York Times reported accounts with very similar themes from a witness identified as Sapir. This is not something that took place, okay? I need you to understand. This is not real, okay? Here. Also, the person that conducted the fucking UN report admitted that it was a mischaracterization that genital mutilation took place. Fuck. The reason why this is important, by the way, stop debating rape and focus on the genocide, Lord. No, shut the fuck up. You want to know why this is important to cover?
Up,
because this is a colonialist tactic, okay?
This
All of the
colonialist.
barbaric rapist savages. It is the same exact fucking principle that whites in apartheid South Africa applied to the black population of South Africa.
True.
It is the same exact principle that
Irish.
white settler colonial violence that the Native Americans were subjected to that justified their genocide. It is the exact same thing that white Klansmen said in the Reconstruction era, and as they went on to lynch black people in the aftermath of the Reconstruction era in the Jim Crow South. This is a colonialist tactic to fucking lie about the sexual barbarity of these animals, these primal beings that are violent and scary and must be fucking put to heel. That is precisely the reason why it's important to address the truth of this so that justice can be served for the fucking victims, okay? Not discounting that sexual assault or sexual violence ever took place on October 7th, because that is commonplace in conflicts. But having said that,
did you get that? See, that is commonplace in conflicts. This is the same as the Holocaust denialism. Like, did a Holocaust happen? Sure, maybe. So did the Dresden bombings. So did the nukes from Japan. Like, on Japan, like, yeah, there's a lot of violence before it happens, you know? See, it's, he sneaks that in. That's good.
You must understand the reason as to why this was so important for Israel to push. It absolutely plays a role in the way that people fucking analyze the Palestinian population. Chris Kunzler and I had a wonderful conversation about this, about the psychosexual nature of this kind of projection propaganda. Here, let's take a look.
The settlers always projected their desires onto the colonized. They would always say, he says specifically in the case of the southern United States, is the white man not always saying that the black man at any opportunity would jump on the good white woman at any given opportunity? Lynchings would very often culminate with of people's. In the case of, he spoke constantly about how bad Jewish boys would attack German women at every opportunity. And in fact, one of the most racist figures and reprehensible within Israeli society, Meir Kahane, there is a video of him on YouTube where he speaks about, he says, there are currently Arab boys hidden in cafes pretending that they have Jewish names so they can basically trick nice, good Jewish girls into dating Arabs. He also gained a massive amount of popularity, his far-right, horrific exterminationist ideology, by saying that there were a series of nationalist, like motivated by terrorism, nationalist hatred of Israel occurring at the time. And there were these...
Nice.
Think about that.
Think about that, guys.
Anyway,